Only took him 2 tries to wake up this time.
Who, me or the bot?
The bot.
Mr. Craig.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Settings are always a thing.
I struggle with it, especially when you're like video conferencing and then back to something else and then to Discord and all this kind of stuff. You'd figure that it would just know what settings I normally use, but apparently Windows has a wonderful way of resetting these things. And,
yeah, Windows has its defaults, and I mean, depending on the device type too, you can get into all kinds of weird situations. Like I know one of the headsets my dad has, actually my wife's headset does this too. When it's connected to the system, it shows up as 2 distinct entries under both speaker and microphone.
Really?
And if you set it to the wrong one in the wrong situation, you get nothing. So it's like, oh my. Well, at least my SteelSeries one's it's a single entry in the system menu, and we're happy.
Yeah. Well.
But, yes.
Enough to drive you batty especially when you're under the gun and you're like, I want to get this sorted so that I can talk to people.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Scouting Stuff You Should Know. You have got 2 of us again this fine evening. I'm Scouter Ken, and over there at the other end of the internet is Scouter Colin.
Hello.
Hey, have you heard the joke about how Zoom meetings are like modern seances?
Seances, yeah. Are you there? Are you with us?
Are you there, Elizabeth? Can you hear us? Give us a sign.
Exactly. I find that very entertaining and rather fitting.
Yep, a little bit.
But
such is the world. Gosh, we're coming up on almost a year of this stuff.
I know, right? Yep, I was in, well, I guess would have been in East Peoria this week or next week. I think it was next week. Like would have been towards the end of the month that I would have been traveling, and then when I got back is when things started spiraling down.
Yeah, I got to look back at my Google Photos here as well, but I think February there was Funorama. Gosh, like everything was happening in February, and then nothing was.
Yeah, and then it was nothing, and that's yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, Funorama. That was the weekend of like the 7th and 8th. And then, yeah, it looks like about the 17th, 18th, through to about the 21st. So right around now was when I was in North Dakota last. And that was it. That was the last time I, until now, did any kind of work travel involving an airplane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically your work travel could have been done by a vehicle too, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I did have a couple of little like over the late spring and into summer, I did have a couple of client site trips, but they were just like really local, right? So, you know, Lacombe or Athabasca or something like that.
Right.
Nothing terribly far. This is the first time. Yeah,
day trip type stuff for the most part.
Yep. But yeah, it would have been exactly a year ago that I was last away from home by way of an airplane.
Yes. Yeah.
And now here I am again.
And here you are again.
Not in North Dakota this time.
Well, no, but eerily similar geography.
And you know what? Actually, like, I was struck by this because, of course, I was trying to drive around today, and I was struck because I'm in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan right now, which I suppose, like, if you drew a line between Edmonton and Bismarck, Moose Jaw wouldn't be too far off of it. I haven't actually looked at a map to confirm that, but I kind of suspect that it is so. But I was actually struck because, of course, we're recording this on Wednesday, the 17th. It's Ash Wednesday. And I was trying to get to an evening service. And unfortunately, with Saskatchewan's restrictions being what they are, churches can only accommodate 30 people maximum at a service. And the church that I went to here that had an evening service wasn't doing like our parish back home does, you sign up in advance, right?
Yep.
The parish here was basically just first come, first serve. First 30 butts in the door, those are the ones going to the service.
Right.
So, I was kind of like of two minds about this. On the one hand, I'm not I'm me, the out of towner. I guess I'm not stealing someone's spot who would normally be a regular parishioner at this particular parish. But on the other hand, I'm a little bit bummed out at not getting to an actual Ash Wednesday service. That's definitely one that has a certain physicality to it that you just cannot recreate with watching it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, I was struck driving around Moose Jaw that I was actually reminded of Bismarck at a few points. I think it's like the architecture of the houses and the architecture of the churches, and just sort of like that same vibe of like, oh, okay, this is all from like a very particular era, right? Particular time when a lot of this stuff was built. There's a lot of history that's just encoded into the design of the buildings. And I was there actually is a certain visual parallel between parts of Bismarck that I've driven through and parts of Moose Jaw. It's really quite striking, actually, if you've been to both places.
Unfortunately, I have not been through the Dakotas, so I'm not. All I know is from what I've researched.
I have never been to South Dakota. I have made 2 separate attempts to reach South Dakota and have been repelled by the weather both times. Once I was staying in Wyoming, and I was staying in kind of northwestern Wyoming, not too far from Devil's Tower. And I thought, I was there over the weekend, and I thought, I know it's wintertime, and the weather here is kind of dodgy at the best of times, but I could probably make it to Mount Rushmore in a day and back. And I tried, and I didn't even get to the South Dakota border before the weather had turned so inclement, and the interstate highway was completely snowed over. It was invisible.
Wow.
Yeah, just the entire road had disappeared entirely. It was indistinguishable from the grassy parts that were ostensibly on either side of it. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just exiting at the next overpass, turning around, going back to my hotel, because this seems like it'll end up with me in a ditch somewhere. And then similarly, one of the times I was through North Dakota, again, kind of at not the best time of year for weather, tried to make the trip south, and nope, it's weird. They don't necessarily get really, really crazy deep snow a lot of the time. But when it comes on fast, and it covers everything. And it's just like, okay, this is, you know what? No, this is just not safe. So someday, maybe if I'm ever able to cross the border again, I'll make an attempt
without 8 or 9 COVID tests, or
well, yeah, and without having to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then 2 more weeks when I get back, plus however long I'm actually there for. Oh my goodness.
It's like a month, an additional month to travel anywhere.
Literally, So it's a good thing I haven't had project work that has been trans-border, but because it's literally I have to bake a whole other month into my schedule, and especially because I can't. the architecture of my house and the number of people I share it with is such that I can't exactly self-isolate, quote unquote, at home. So I can just so that would be an additional challenge, I'm sure. But fortunately, interprovincial travel, at least Alberta to Saskatchewan, is under no such mandate.
No, that's right. I was just going to ask you if you were going to go visit the tunnels of Moose Jaw while you were there.
Well, if they weren't closed, that would have been nice.
I guess they probably. Are they closed right now? I'm sorry.
They are in fact closed. They are closed. So I am, for those of you not familiar with the glorious city of Moose Jaw, it seems to have approximately 3 claims to fame that I can discern. One of which is Mac the Moose, who is now, again, the tallest moose statue in the world. He's actually right south of my hotel.
Visible from your hotel, or not quite?
Not from my window, just because of the positioning of the building. But literally, when I step out into the parking lot, he's right there.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So apparently there's a city in Oslo that also has a moose statue, and for a while there was competition. as to whose moose was taller, but they gave Mac some new antlers in 2019, and so he is once again reclaimed.
We don't know anything about friendly competition about whose kite is taller or is flying higher. No, we don't know anything about that.
No, not at all. And then a second thing that, of course, is Moose Jaw is known for is there is a Canadian Forces base here, CFB Moose Jaw, also known as 15-wing Moose Jaw, and this is primarily an air base and the home of the Snowbirds, which is Canada's flight demonstration team. So Mac has an immediate neighbor, which is one of the Snowbirds planes, tastefully placed atop a pedestal. Currently, quite a lot of flowers around the base of it, because, of course, one of the Snowbird pilots was killed when they did their big cross-Canada tour this summer.
Right. I was going to mention that, but yeah, no, that was right. That happened in BC, didn't it? It was like...
Yeah, I want to say Kamloops or something like that. Yeah.
Really sad.
Very sad, especially because, like, their whole thing was they were doing this big cross-Canada tour kind of right when the lockdown was really starting to wear on people, and it was kind of this big inspirational thing. It was a really, really cool thing they were doing, and then unfortunately flying is not perfectly safe, and especially when you're flying in tight formation, part of a demonstration team, things do sometimes go wrong with those more challenging aerial maneuvers, unfortunately. So, yes, that's the second claim to fame of Moose Jaw. The Snowbirds are here. And then the third is they purport to have some history with Prohibition and possibly even Al Capone. So there's actually a little part of town called Little Chicago, which is kind of about where the tunnels are. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that's sort of, named for Capone or for... prohibition related things. And I don't know how much veracity there is to the claims. There certainly seems to be some debate there, but there are definitely these old smuggling tunnels or whatever they are. Unfortunately, normally a tourist attraction, but closed for the time being, as are many things due to the pandemic. So no sightseeing for me.
Or mud baths. That's the other thing I know that's in Moose Jaw too.
I think those are close too.
I would imagine.
So it's I'm glad that at least some of the restaurants are open, because there's some decent local fare to be had. There's a handful of places that are that's what I like to do when I travel, right? Like I like to find the places that are just it's all well and good to sit down at Boston Pizza. The food's, you know what you're going to get going in there. The food's good.
Yeah.
And certainly there have been times when I've traveled where I've been in places and it's like, well, you know what? Literally the only thing in town is Montana's. So I guess that's where we're going, but at least it's a known quantity.
Yeah, that's right. I know what I'm getting,
But where possible, I like to, if there's unique places, right? Not chain or anything like that, but just this restaurant is only here and it's really highly regarded. That's where I'm going. And there's a fair number of such places here in Moose Jaw. So that's good.
I try to do the same thing when I travel, is look up the area and see if there's a regional cuisine that you can get, or if, there's a place that does something really well and has been on the diners, drive-ins and dives.
Yes.
Or you got to eat here or whatever. Foodie shows,
yes.
Try and hit up those places as well.
Yep. Yeah. Or and you know what? I used to live and die by Urban Spoon. That was the best.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I don't think that website exists anymore. It's largely been superseded by Yelp.
Yep.
But the Yelp is not bad. But Google these days, even just Google Maps, tends to have quite decent ratings for restaurants. I tend not to go wrong with their...
I think if you look at the reviews and the number of reviews they have versus the stars, and if you generally don't go wrong that way. So I was going to ask you, are you eating in person or are you taking out and eating at the hotel or
You know
at
what? I
the?
have actually been eating in person
Okay.
because most things have been fairly spaced out.
I was going to say, and how do you feel about that? Like, what's your take on how Saskatchewan's doing that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, the last time I looked at their map, this particular region of the province had like very, very few active cases. So
Less concerning with less activity, that's for sure.
yeah, and so I mean, yeah, there's always a bit of a risk, I suppose. But I haven't really felt too much like the most of the places that I've been in have just I've been sitting very, very just off to the side, you know. So like today there was a bit more of a crowd at the place that I went to, but again, like I was just kind of off to the side, wasn't really.
You get in, you order your food, you eat, you go. It's not like
Exactly.
you're there for the ambiance or the experience necessarily. You're just kind of there to get some food and then head out. So,
Pretty much. So
well, I'm glad you're having
apparently,
fun.
mhm. Apparently, Triple D has not hit anywhere in Saskatchewan.
Also a good thing.
Sad day. Oh well, someday. I got a couple recommendations for him at any rate.
Yeah.
How about you? How you been?
Yeah. Since we talked last, yeah, same old, same old. I'm going through some of our duplicated furniture
Oh,
in the house and trying to pare down the stuff that we don't need. So we've kind of been collecting furniture, which is our it's weird, like bookcases and things like that. And I'm like, I mean, storage is good and helps to organize things, but when you have, you know, an extra bed that you don't need and dressers and end tables and that kind of stuff that's going on in kitchen appliances where you have two or three of, but they're still in good working order, and you wanna, you don't want to, uh, throw them away, right? Like you don't want to throw all this stuff away because it's still got life in it, and I mean,
mhm.
someone will use it. So, I'm sure you're familiar with St. Vincent de Paul Society in Edmonton.
Yuppers.
Yeah, so I'm I got on with them, and I'm donating some stuff. So
Nice.
just getting ready for the truck next week. And so yeah, that's kind of the big thing in our house right now. Ooh, we're getting rid of some things.
Hey, it's
But
that was a lot of our 2020. Actually, was just going through stuff and being just like, why do we even still have this? The amount of stuff that we got rid of was actually quite staggering.
yeah, where you sit down and you actually look at the thing and go, "Well, am I using this? No. Am I going to use this ever? No." So
No,
it's like, do we need this? No.
no.
So someone
Well,
else can use it.
and we were helped by the fact that St. Albert, like, I mean, yeah, we've done St. Vincent de Paul, we've done Mustard Seed, we donated one couch to my wife's cousin who's a school teacher. He's a drama teacher, so he was like, oh, big comfy couch for my drama room. Perfect.
Oh,
But the other thing that was a significant enabler for us was that so like St. Albert has their municipal garbage collection, of course, and they have this. There's a couple of different places around St. Albert, which are basically like depots that you can take extra garbage to. And normally it's not free. It's like, $2.25 a bag or whatever. You have to buy these special tags that you affix to extra bags, and then you can go and throw them out at one of these depots. Well, for most of the summer, they waived the fee.
yeah.
So, so many bags. There were weeks where it was multiple days just me throwing stuff out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good to declutter. It definitely is.
Yes. I agree. There's something about, and I was talking to Cindy about that. We were just talking about the kitchen in general. And it's like, you know what? When you come downstairs and you walk into the kitchen and the kitchen is clean to start with, you're going to have an all right day. Like, it's just going to, it sets you, it puts you on a good foot to, like, make yourself breakfast, get a pot of coffee on, all of that kind of stuff. And you just feel like your day is going to be all right, regardless of what's going on. Right. And it's, you can find things and there's, everything is put away. It's like the kitchen is ready to go. So if you want to make a big breakfast, you can. If you want to just grab a bowl of cereal, you can. There's not. Whereas if you come down the stairs and your counters are covered in dishes from the night before and that kind of thing, it doesn't necessarily preclude you from having a good day, but it's certainly something that, at least in my head anyways, it kind of sets me off a little bit. So, I'm happy to put in the little extra effort before I go to bed so that I can wake up and come downstairs and have a clean kitchen to come into.
Yep. No, I'm much the same. I'm usually the first one up. Well, it's a contest between me and Ella. And when I say it's a contest between me and Ella, what I really mean is it's a contest between William and Ella.
You're along for the ride.
Right. And if Ella gets up first, I'm just like, whatever, roll over and just get a little bit more rest. But the minute William wakes up, obviously, he's 3, so it's not like I can just leave him to fend for himself. So that's when I'm out of bed and making him breakfast and making myself breakfast and making sure Ella has a decent breakfast and all of that stuff. It works out well on school days because, of course, her school starts earlier. So we're kind of all done and ready by about the time anybody else even rolls down the stairs, and then I got to take her to school anyways. So, it works out. But I usually try and get the kitchen to, about like a mostly clean point. Like, there'll be a few dishes kind of left over in the sink from...
Right, because there's always dishes. Let's not kid ourselves. In a house, there is always dishes. It doesn't matter.
Well, usually it's, for us, it's usually like, because the kids will have a bedtime snack, right? So that will generate a small amount of dishes, but that'll be it. And then, sometimes I actually manage to put all the clean dishes away. Sometimes I leave myself a few that I'll handle that in the morning. But it's nice to have the kitchen start from a pretty good state in order to proceed with everything else. It's a there's been a couple of times where things have just gotten entirely too crazy and I haven't had a chance to clean everything up, and then you come down to that in the morning and you're just like, oh, this is not a good way to start.
No.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
I've always taken the chance to clean a little bit as I go as well. Like, if it's something, even if it's just picking up something and putting it away, you just keep working through that. And eventually things get tidy and put away and cleaned up, and it just works.
That's definitely the lesson I'm trying to impart to Ella, because of course, she still is very much, she has ambitions on, like working as a chef, working as a cook, baker, whatever. And, she'll get up to all of these projects. And so, there'll be I kind of hovering nearby and, sort of trying to encourage the whole cleaning as you go thing, because, and it's true in a lot of situations. Like there are some situations where your desk can be a hot mess and you can still function.
That's true.
But a kitchen is not one of these. A kitchen, you need to very tightly control your workspace. The amount of clutter that accumulates in it, and it'll quickly become unmanageable if you don't.
That's right.
And so that's sort of, a thing that I definitely came to appreciate, working in the restaurants that I did. It's something I'm trying to impress on Ella now that she has similar ambitions, and we'll see how that goes.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of banter.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just so you know, this is a Diet Coke.
Ah.
Just so you know.
Well, that's okay. I'm drinking water today.
Ah, yes.
So
I should probably drink more water, but yeah.
Well, the rules for fasting in the Catholic Church are much more relaxed than, say what would be, well, at least in the Western Rite. If you want to go Eastern Rite, they're a little bit harder core,
Yeah.
but not quite as much as like say our Islamic brothers and sisters do during Ramadan, where literally from sunup to sundown you consume nothing.
That's right.
Quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So, the usual rule of one smallish meal per day, and then you can have 2 other times where you eat, but the things that you eat can't themselves add up to the same quantity as that smaller meal. It's a little bit technical, but it makes sense once you actually understand what it's trying to say. But fortunately, you can have as much water as you like, so there you go. But I don't know that there's really a topic for this episode, but you had actually kind of suggested the last time we talked that it would probably be beneficial to just have a reintroduction episode. Because, of course, we've been doing this now for, is this the 5th year? It's been a while.
Well, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I would honestly have to look.
Who knew we had this much stuff to talk about?
Right? I would honestly have to look at exactly, but I suspect this might be the 5th year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go first, or shall I?
You know what? You can kick it off. Because think...
Me. Okay.
I'm just going to quickly... Well, here we go. Hang on, I just want to actually go to like my last page of episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, episode 1, What is Scouting, was released October 8th, 2015. So we've already exceeded the 5-year mark. We're into 6. Holy mackerel.
Wow. Who knew?
Right?
Well, I guess it is time for a reintroduction, because there might be a bunch of people just sitting, listening to us, not even knowing who we are, what our connection is to scouting. But I know we kind of hint at it through episodes, but
Yes, it was long enough ago. I can't even remember what episode it was in, where we kind of deep dived into our respective scouting histories. Which, I mean, there's actually a lot of overlap between them. But by all means, why don't you kick it off?
Okay, so my name's Colin, and I was a product of the Scouts Canada program from 1985 to I finished rovering in 2020 or 2005. Nope, that's not right. Yeah, no, maybe it is. I'm trying to remember.
It sounds about right, because you'd be a couple years offset from me.
Yeah. So I think it was 2005. And so in that time frame, I did the Beavers to Rovers and Wildston Rovers. I was also I took on various group council positions. So aside from just being a member of the group council, I was also treasurer and group commissioner for a time. I was a scout leader throughout my rovering career. I also did. I was a climbing instructor for the wall that they had at the council office for a time.
Mm.
Yeah, and I continued on with scouting after I had aged out of the official program for another 5 years. So it was 2010 when all was said and done for me, before I took leave and kind of retired from scouting. Predominantly, I had burned out as a scouter. I was all of the group council stuff and whatnot had kind of taken its toll, as it sometimes does. And so I took a break, and when you approached me in 2015 to do the podcast, I signed on. But my viewpoint is kind of an older scouter looking at the new programs that are rolling out and trying to provide some color commentary to the to that and some insight from my experiences being a leader in various capacities in the Scouts program.
Indeed. And I mean, it is truly valuable, some of the insights you've been able to bring, because my own trajectory has been somewhat the same and also somewhat different. So you and I both went through pretty much the entirety of the Scouts Canada program, from Beavers through to Rovers. I would have started a couple of years after you and ended a couple of years after you. My age out point was basically WJ 2007.
Yes.
Which you were also at, but in a slightly different capacity than myself. No, that's actually, right. I think we were both adult offers of service, so whatever. Mm-hmm. We weren't there as participants. It's all good. But yeah, so, I would have started around age 5, Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Vince, Rovers, and then, and like always in the same group. Like we both came up through the 59th Edmonton or 59th Greenfield, or 59th Greenfield Royal Gardens. Officially, the bank statements say 59th Edmonton. And that's sometimes what I try and go by, because if you try and list, it started in the group started, technically it started at St. Agnes Parish, and then after a few years, the Knights of Columbus handed it off to Greenfield Community League. But, it's been associated primarily with Greenfield. It's just that over the years, some of the surrounding scout groups, which were once more plentiful in number, have folded. And so we've kind of absorbed them, right? There used to be a Lansdowne Scout group. We absorbed them. There used to be a Royal Gardens Scout group. We absorbed them. And so, at some point, the list of community names gets a little bit cumbersome. And so calling us 59th Edmonton almost makes more sense. That said, if you look us up on Facebook, it's 59th Greenfield Royal Gardens, because I guess I was in just that kind of a mood when I set that page up. And, for me, I think, going through the program was really, there were ups and downs, obviously, as there are with anything. But, one thing that I've come to appreciate especially over the course of 2020 and sort of, reflecting on different aspects of my own youth life and just in talking about it with people, I've always had a very contentious relationship with school. Because school was often a place of significant hardship for me. I was bullied through much of my school career, and not just by fellow students, even by some teachers, right? Like I have a very contentious history with school. And so I do have fond memories of particular teachers or particular classes. There are certain things about my life now that I can definitely say, okay, well, like a significant amount of the credit rests with this teacher or this class or whatever. But in general, my relationship with school has been very contentious. And Scouts was kind of more, that was my zone, right? And certainly I think a lot of the enduring friendships that I maintain have come out of the scouting program more than out of any of my academic pursuits. And that's cool. I'm actually really happy to have that as part of my identity. Beavers through Rovers, aged out in 2007, got married in late 2007. We had our first kid approximately a year later. And that kind of led to a bit of a hiatus. As I was finishing up Rovers, and then a few times thereafter, just like going through my photo archives, I can see I remember taking a trip with you and Robin to Burtonsville, for example, taking the Scouts there. And certainly, the old Rover crew that we were both part of kept in touch in various ways, somewhat diminishing ways as the years rolled on, but still kept in touch as much as possible. And like I had helped out with my brother's Beavers and Cubs a little bit kind of in those last couple of years before I aged out as well. And it's funny now because, of course, we've had a couple of cases recently where people have contacted the group from, people have been like cleaning out their garages, and they've contacted the group, and they're just like, hey, I found all this stuff that's like related to scouting, and I'm not involved anymore, and my kids aren't involved anymore, but like we were part of your group. Do you want it? Or photos or things like that. And it's been like people, and it's just like, oh, hey, how you doing? It's been a while since we were both leading beavers together. Some funny conversations that way. But so I took a bit of a hiatus there. And then, of course, I don't credit the kids show Max and Ruby with much. It's not my favorite show. But it is what kind of brought me back into the fold. Because, of course, at the time that she was kind of 4 and turning 5, Ella really, really liked this show. And I mean, it's a cute enough show. It's about, a couple of bunnies. There's the older sister Ruby and her mischievous younger brother Max. And Ruby is a bunny scout. And there's a few episodes where she and her bunny scout pals, and the bunny scouts in the show are kind of a little bit more modeled, I think, on the Girl Scout model or the Girl Guide model. But still, there's a few episodes where Ruby is hanging out with the other bunny scouts, and they're working on badges and, all of the stereotypical stuff. And at one point, Ella asks, Mom, Dad, are bunny scouts real? Because I'd like to be one. I'm just like, well, bunny scouts aren't real, but beaver scouts are. And you were group commissioner at the time. And I'm not sure if this was Facebook. I think it was Facebook. At least when I tell the story, it's Facebook. So we'll go with that. But, I've put something out, put some feelers out, just looking for scout groups, because we had already moved to St. Albert at the time. But I put some feelers out, just like, oh, yeah, looking for a scout group. And you kind of pinged me, and you're just like, all of my beaver scouters no longer have kids in beavers and are really looking to move on. If you're looking to come on board at the beaver level, have I got a group for you?
It's true.
And I mean,
never pass up the opportunity to recruit.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, always be recruiting. And I mean, I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to put the green and orange back on. Like, come on.
Right. Exactly.
So I came back and signed Ella up as a beaver, and away we went. And it was just kind of a fortuitous time, I think, to get involved again. Just, between Scouts Canada relaxing their restrictions on what we were allowed to do with Beaver Scouts, and, just me kind of coming in with a head full of ideas and enough enthusiasm that I was able to pass along to other Scouters that came along after the old guard departed.
And the resources to implement some of that stuff too, like you.
And the resources to implement. They've had to rein me in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you talk about being treasurer, right? Like, there was at least 1 year, not 2020 or maybe even 2019, but there was at least 1 year there where far and away Cub Scouts was the most expensive section.
But truly, if you look at like the finances of a scouting program, I mean, I would say the difficulty goes up, the number of participants goes down, but at Cub Scouts, typically, I think you're gonna see your largest sections, and you want to have the most kind of I would say that wasn't a wrong thing where
it wasn't, but it was surprising to the group because the way we were doing budgeting was, that basically like we were budgeting a certain spend per youth per year, and that went up, right? So you were spending less per youth, Cubs a little more, but Scouts, Vents, Rovers more. You were allocating per youth. So I suppose, when you think about the fact that Cub Scouts is generally, probably speaking, the largest section that you're likely to encounter in your average group. And certainly there is a significant fall off in membership after Cub Scouts. The per youth budget is still generally lower. It's just that you have so many more youth, so your overall budget for that section might be higher. No. I blew both of those out of the water. But I mean, and like, and we've talked about that in like the episodes about some of the
Yeah, yeah,
finances. Is that unfortunately a lot of stuff, not everything, a lot of stuff does cost money to do. But and obviously ambition does need to be tempered by the limits of a group's financial resources. But it was a combination of the right number of factors, and we all everything just lined up all at once, and we did well with the program. We really did. And it's kind of funny because like I've taken a few steps back just because it all got a little bit too much to manage, I found. But I've been fortunate in that, the number of scouters that I've onboarded who have stuck around and whose kids have stuck around has been large enough that, it's kind of become its own self-sustaining thing. They have that same enthusiasm, and they have that same thirst for trying out new stuff, and it's really great. Like, it's been rolling for you. We're starting to feel a bit of a crunch again at the Beaver level. We're starting to have to really work hard to onboard new scouters, but it's been a good thing. It has definitely been a good thing. A little harder in the last year and a bit, and this year's not shaping up to be that easy either. But I mean, it's kind of funny because like Ella has followed a very similar trajectory to myself, which is to say that she's had a very contentious relationship with school as well, and there's sort of this repeating cycle that plays out almost every year. This year to a degree, but differently and in a way that she's weathering better. But in most other years, like she'll make friends, but then that'll just kind of fall apart and they'll go all weird, or they'll turn on her, or they'll just abandon her. And so like she hasn't really put down strong roots tied to any school. Whereas with Scouts, especially from like Cubs on, and I mean, like, I can still envision the moment quite perfectly in mind because, and, it's funny because the other girl, well, what, this is not a bad story actually, because this kind of encapsulates, I think, a lot of what my own feelings about Scouts are, but in an even more concentrated way, right? I'm still leading Cubs, but at the time Ella was in Cubs. This is a few years ago now. And I'd been contacted by this father. He was looking to get his daughter involved in a youth program. He mentioned that, she was a little bit shy in groups, definitely wasn't looking at the guiding program at the time. Didn't think that would be a great fit. She was a little bit more inclined towards the outdoorsy stuff and the STEM stuff, and we were doing a fair bit of both. And he'd heard about us, and he wanted, to bring her around for just to try it out, right? Because at the time, like we just got off of this free trial program that lasted for a few months. But at the time, it was basically, you could come to 2 or 3 meetings before you had to make a choice to register.
That's right. Yep.
So, we hashed out the details. I let him know when our next meeting was. He said, "Cool, great, we'll be there." And sure enough, he showed up, and Ella, like, I can't remember if I prompted her to go say hello or not. I don't remember doing so. But, this little girl, Willa, came in the door, and Ella just kind of threw one arm around her shoulder and said, "Come on, I'll show you around," or something to that effect. And they've just been the best of buds ever since. Like to the point where, Willa's dad he's one of our scouters with Ella's scout troop, which Willa is also a member of. He makes sure we text each other. It's like, which troop are you registering in, orange or green? Just to make sure that they're together. And like, there was even a point where, over the summer, Willa had possibly decided to step back from scouting. The virtual stuff wasn't sitting as well with her, I don't think. And she was looking at the Trex program that Girl Guides was offering. But nope, she, within a few weeks, she had made the decision that nope, she was going to try both because she just, didn't want to be away from all the fond memories of scouting, didn't want to put that sort of a distance between herself and Ella. And I don't know if she's still doing the Trex program or not. Last I had heard, she wasn't terribly impressed with what the group was getting up to or not getting up to. Of course, it's hard to judge those things right now, too, because we're all under restrictions, right? It's at least here in Alberta. If we were out in PEI, it'd be different. But Alberta's scouting activities in Alberta are still fairly curtailed, and guiding activities likewise. But those two have just been, they've literally been mistaken for actual biological sisters before. Right? That's kind of the closeness of the bond that they formed, and it's great to see. I love it. But it kind of encapsulates, the scouting experience and what a role it has played in Ella's life. And then my other two that are in the movement right now, like Juliana, she enjoys going to Cubs. I wouldn't say it's her favorite thing in the world, but she wants to go back in every year, so cool. And even Elena. And Elena's the weird one, because not that Elena herself is weird, but just in any given Beaver meeting, she doesn't seem terribly interested. But you get her at a camp and she is the queen. She is, you put her in that camping environment and she is in her element. I think I might have mentioned in a previous episode, what she wanted for her birthday, which falls in the middle of July?
No, what?
She wanted to go tenting.
No.
We were under less restrictions then, so we could actually have a family birthday party, and her grandmother, my wife's mom, share the same birthday.
Oh, neat.
So there was a big family party out in Vermilion, and we were going there. But she was really, no, you know what I want for my birthday? I want Dad to take me camping for a night. Fortunately, there's a nice provincial park in Vermilion. So
I was going to say, I think there's some camping close to Vermilion. So that worked out well.
We got a spot. We loaded up on Grandpa Conrad's firewood, and we just went and we pitched a tent and we roasted marshmallows and smokies and took a big hike. And it was just, but that's, that's her thing. When the Beavers get outdoors and they go on a hike, or especially if it's any kind of overnight thing, she is there. So that, I think, more than anything underscores my desire, the anxiousness that I have to, get through this darn pandemic and get back to the point where we can have the kids doing these overnight things again, even if it's with some restrictions, right? Even if it's a case of where we got to have one youth to a tent and various other fiddly bits to make sure that, we're reducing risk where possible. I'd be fine with that. I just, I literally have one scout at home, a Beaver Scout, granted, but still, who is just chomping at the bit more than anybody I know to just get back in a tent.
Yeah. Well, I hear you.
And camping in the backyard just doesn't cut it. We did a little bit more tenting over the summer, and she just loved every minute of it. And it would be great to be able to do that again with the youth in scouting.
That's really cool.
Things.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. So anyways, dear listener, that's kind of us.
Yeah, that's who we are. And
it's interesting. We're only a couple of years apart in age, and yet we have sort of these different perspectives. You're the one who's kind of seen it all, done it all, the wizened voice of experience, and I'm still the I don't know what the heck I am. I'm just kind of the crazy one who's like, what if we did this?
Don't sell yourself short.
I know I have a lot of experience with a lot of things, although I've actually been told. I was actually told at one group committee meeting that I was specifically not allowed to volunteer to be group commissioner.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's I can't remember who was GC at the time. It wasn't Steven, it was somebody else. But they, started musing about stepping down. And one of my fellow scouters turns to me and she's just like, "You? No."
Yeah, that's the problem with enjoying what you do, is you do want to you want to be engaged and volunteer where you can, or where you see a need, or all that kind of stuff. But the trick is balance, right? You don't want to overload yourself with so many roles that it's daunting, at least from a leadership perspective. So
yep. Well, and
And
you
I-
know what? I mean, I content myself with, providing some of the uh, technical help where I can, right? Like, especially with this move to virtual, a lot of scout troops are starting to discover the magic of Discord. Of course, their scouts have already discovered the magic of Discord for the better part of a year or more. Um, but, like I built a Discord server for Ella's scout troop. They use it fairly regularly. I built them a Minecraft server actually too. They now have their own like troop specific Minecraft server that they can log into.
Oh, neat.
Mm-hmm. But then I was also contacted by the Second St. Albert, and I helped them with building a rudimentary Discord server for their troop. And Northern Lights Council is actually looking at building a Discord server as well. So I'm going to be, once I get back from this trip, I got some meetings lined up with them. Because they're like, and the neat thing is with Discord, like I don't have all the features turned on our Discord server for scouting stuff. But Discord has, over the last year and a bit, rolled out this communities feature, which allows for some interesting linking between Discord servers. So the idea that I have is like basically if we build an NLC Discord server, we'll make it a community server. And with a community server, one of the things you get is called the announcements channel. And you can do two things with the announcements channel. One, you can make announcements in the announcements channel. But two, if your Discord server is also a community, you can subscribe to other announcement channels in other servers. So
That's
the
not so
idea I
bad.
have is like basically we build the NLC Discord server, and then if any scout groups want to build their own Discord server around, like within NLC, we can craft a server template for them, deploy it, and say, now turn on your community features and subscribe to our announcements channel. And then anytime NLC has communications they want to just bark out to all the groups, they drop it in their announcements channel, and any subscribed group gets it automatically.
Oh, sounds really good.
Mm-hmm. So, I try and help out where I can.
Mm-hmm.
Little suggestions here and there. But anyways, yes. So that is us, dear listeners.
Yeah.
A couple of voices coming at you from the frozen hinterlands of Canada, the currently frozen hinterlands of Canada. Get a few more months and it'll thaw out nicely.
Maybe you should play that as the tagline music for the end of the podcast. This is the Hinterlands theme.
I'll look for it. I'm not familiar with that one, so I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, it's what was it? The things that stick in my mind from my childhood. Well, one of which is the National Film Board and their vignettes.
Mm.
The Log Driver's Waltz being one of them.
Oh, the Log Driver's Waltz is wonderful.
Yeah, and then the other one is the Hinterlands. If I could find it, I'll send it to you.
Yes, please do.
And yeah, because it is quite interesting.
Hinterlands, Canada? I don't know. Let's see here. Well, there's the Hinterlands Who's Who, the Loon.
Maybe that's the one.
Well, and the Beaver, and the Woodchuck.
Yeah, but
you know what? If you find it, this episode's not going to go live for a few weeks, so you got a couple of weeks to find me which one you mean. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, but you would know it better than I would.
I will. That'll be my thing when I get off the. There
you go.
This chat with you is I'll go look that up.
Alrighty. And I don't have any other shout outs this week, so as always, a big thank you to the folks at Scouting Radio for rebroadcasting our episodes to their worldwide audience. If you're listening to us on Scouting Radio right now, please do let us know, reach out, and get in touch. We would love to hear from you.
Okay.
Yes, Colin.
Does one get a hold of us these days?
Well, email still works. Scouting Stuff
Are you
Podcast.
a pigeon?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they're a little hard to come by, but
falconry. Like this.
Do falcons carry messages?
I figure if you could put a band around their leg with a little port.
That's true. Smoke signals, although when it's foggy and misty out like it is right now, that's a little bit less of a useful communications method.
Semaphore?
Email will do. scoutingstuffpodcast@gmail.com or at outlook.com. I'm not picky. Or you can go to our website, scoutingstuffpodcast.com. There is a contact form there. Link is in the top bar. You can also leave us a voice message. And to do so, just visit scoutingstuffpodcast.com and look down in the... it shows up better on mobile, but it's there on desktop as well. Just kind of look to the bottom right of the page, and there'll be a little blue and white microphone icon. You can record us a voice message, and I can work that into a podcast episode if you do. We're on Twitter, SSYSK Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Scouting Stuff Podcast is the username there. And all of those have direct messaging capabilities, so feel free to hit us up by whichever of those means is your personal go-to. And of course, you can join us here on our Discord server. There will be a link in the show notes. If you are listening to us but you haven't subscribed yet, do consider subscribing. And if you subscribe, you can, depending on where you subscribe through, also leave us a review. We would encourage you to do both. That's all I got. So thank you out there for listening. Thank you for a lovely, nostalgic chat, Scouter Colin.
No problem. Thanks for indulging me.
No, this was good. And until next time, everyone, be prepared.